All right, here we go.
Here we Sakimo go.
No.
I don't think you formatted that correctly.
More like Sakimo no.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh,
Hilary. Hey.
We were on the same page.
We got there. We got there.
well, now it is going to be in the show. All right. Hello, and welcome to episode 108. 108? Welcome to episode 108. I don't know which of those I like better. I'm going to go with 108.
It's a lot of episodes, whatever.
It is, yeah. 108 of Rhythm Encounter, the RPG fan music podcast. I am your host, Mike Salbato, and I have three people with me today to talk about a composer that all of us like a lot. But before we get into the composer, I say this as if you are listening somewhere in some capacity in which you haven't already read the title, but I'm still going to keep it from you for some reason.
It's a mystery.
It's a mystery. Anyway, yes. Along with me today, you've already heard two of my panel. Hilary is here.
Hello.
We were talking off the air that we don't remember the last podcast you were on, but it seems like it's been a little while.
Yeah, I had a bunch of real life stuff getting in the way, but really happy to be here.
Yeah, I'm happy you are too. Greg is here as well from the far reaches of the north of, I don't know. I didn't have a good
Northern
Canada.
Pacific area.
I didn't have a good Canada joke today.
But yes, I am here from Canada, and hello, thanks for having me back. It hasn't been, I don't think, as long as Hilary, but it's been a few episodes since I've been able to come on and chat with folks.
Yeah, and I don't think our last person here has been absent for quite as long, but Audra is here as well.
Hello. I have not. I've been on for a couple.
Yeah. You've become one of the most regular people, I think. Like you and Geo. Like Geo started getting on Rhythm Encounters and was like just on like almost every one for a while. And we'll be on more coming up. So
Yay.
Same.
I'd like...
But where do you find the time, Audra, with all the games you play? My goodness.
Well, this week I have some free time, so away from work, so that's good.
Yeah,
good stuff.
Yeah, that's true. I should have introduced you as our prolific reviewer. So
It's true.
yes.
Aw,
Well,
thank you.
I mean, we don't publish our traffic or our numbers, and I'm not going to actually state any numbers on the show, but internally, I do like to talk about to the staff about our traffic and what's doing well and all that. And I just shared it today as of this recording, and like our highest traffic review in March was one of yours, your Tyrant's Blessing review. So
Yay.
yeah,
That was awesome. That's an awesome bit of news.
it was very cool. So, well, that's what we're talking about today. We're going to talk about the many games that Audra reviews and how popular they are,
Talking about stats.
and also maybe some music.
Happy early April, everybody.
We already did the April Fool's episode, which turned
It's
out
true.
It turned out not to be a joke. It was just we decided we all like Chocobo music.
It was
too
a great
much.
goofy topic.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's
It
fair.
was fun.
It's very, very springy.
it was really going to be a joke. I swear. It was like, oh, this is like silly. Let's just do this. And then we're like, wait, no, we like this. We like these songs.
It would have been a joke if you just all picked the Final Fantasy X one, or is it 13? That's the bad one.
Well, it depends on what you like and what you don't like. Not
Your
13.
mileage might vary.
We could have just played the Final Fantasy II one, the original one.
Ugh.
Jono brought that on, which is important. Historically, it's important because it's the original. That's where it started, but it was just part of the original song.
Oh, yeah,
So
I guess
it's like-
that's true. Yeah.
It's a 7-second little thing. So we thought about just looping those 7 seconds for an hour and a half.
Oh, gosh.
But there's that one that you talked about. You put it in, I don't know if it was a bonus track or whatever, but you remember you saying how bad it was. But anyways, people can listen to the episode, whatever.
Well, there's not a bad one in that episode. Personally, I'm not a fan of the one from 10-2.
That's the one. That's
think-
what it was. There we go.
I
Thank you.
think they got a Chocobo to like trample on some bagpipes and some musicians and
Trampleless musicians.
whatever was happening.
dear.
All these weird like honking, squeaking sounds. I'm like, that's not a Chocobo theme. But again, your mileage may vary.
Choco to oh no.
So now that we've covered everything we're not talking about today,
Right.
what we are talking about today is composer Hitoshi Sakimoto.
Woo.
So this is a topic we sort of covered a long time ago on the show. Not technically, his work in general, but episode 5, just 5, not 105, but episode 5 of Rhythm Encounter was all about the music of Ivalice, which is not entirely Sakimoto's work. It's also because he and Iwata both worked on Final Fantasy Tactics. So that's where those came from, or that sound came from. And so yeah, episode 5 was about that. So it included Tactics and Vagrant Story and Final Fantasy 12 and some other stuff. And it's a complete coincidence, but when this episode publishes, it will be, let's see, 9 days after this episode releases, it'll have been exactly 10 years since episode 5. So,
oh wow,
interestingly close coincidence.
I know, that wasn't planned at all, especially since this was going to be episode like 105 at some point. I think we kept moving it back, so maybe that was why it was supposed to like line up.
It's meant to be.
Yeah, it was meant to be that 10-year mark.
That's when Sakimoto's at his most powerful. On the anniversaries. I don't know.
Wait, so every 10 years, Castle Sakimoto like emerges?
Yes. Wait, that's not the right game.
Oh, okay. Sorry, I was thinking about Castlevania recently, all right? What
that would be cool.
What's, I guess, what's Sakimoto backwards? Otomakas. That's his son that has like shunned the family for generations. But now is coming back to make things right. I told you, I was thinking about Symphony of the Night, okay?
Which is essentially one of his like early like pseudonyms, is almost a weird version of his name backwards anyways.
Is it really?
Well, it's something like that, yeah. Emoshi or whatever it is. Emosh.
Wow, I thought I was just completely making that up.
It's like it's like Sakimoto Homie or something like that backwards. It's what kind of looks like to me. I feel like it's somewhere. I feel like his name is in that in some weird way.
It's what I mean on VGMDB. It's YMOH.S.
It's absolutely letters from his name.
Mm-hmm.
There you go. He's already a Castlevania
so that's
story.
his estranged son.
His estranged half vampire son.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Wow, all right, this took a turn.
So this all of this you can find in his Wikipedia. It's true facts.
But now we've already established he worked under different names, so that's good to know.
Yeah, actually, all the music and everything I was looking at, I didn't actually pick up on that. So thanks for pointing that out.
Hey, no worries.
So real quickly, before we get into the episode, as usual, I like to ask, basically, why are you all here? Which sounds really accusatory, but really, I just want to know why this topic, like what drew you to this episode. I'm going to pick someone at random. Greg.
I fell in love with his music in Tactics and a little bit in Ogre Battle, but I didn't know he was part of Ogre Battle back then, but I've always really enjoyed the Ogre Battle soundtrack. But it wasn't like Tactics is what cemented his work for me. And again, it would be many years until I actually bothered looking at composer names and discovering, that was him. But he has a very clear voice in his music, and which, I made that joke ages back when this topic was announced, how a lot of it sounds very similar, but there's a lot of nuance in there, jokes aside. And I love the sort of world and history and story or whatever his music kind of creates. So I wouldn't be happy to talk about that if there's Tactics and anything else he's touched involved.
Right. And maybe I should let everyone else go, but I'm going to go just because I want to piggyback off of that a little bit. But I know what you're saying, but I definitely see that as a good thing because I think in many cases, I mean, if you're really familiar with his work and like some of the instrumentation and styles he uses, you can pick him out. But I also think it's usually intentional. Like if you listen to anything set in Ivalice, but at the same time, I think it's just impressive that he has created this like soundscape for this, spin-off world of Final Fantasy that's appeared in all these other games. So Ivalice itself has a sound. Like it overlaps a bit with his own sound, but I like that those are very recognizable. And then Ogre Battle has this other sound to it.
Mm-hmm. So. Which was a fun rediscovery for me in this topic, which we'll get into in a bit. But yeah, you're right. It is, again, that's his voice, but you can still, there's stuff that's separate from it too. So he's got range.
Yeah. So I'll just finish up. But like my introduction was also Tactics, and same as you. Like at the time, like I didn't know composers back then because I wasn't that young, but compared to now, I was a wee lad. So yeah, that's where it started, was Tactics, and I gradually picked up on like, oh, he also did this one and this one. And of course, one of the games today, I just have this unhealthy obsession with the music for. So,
Ooh, I'm looking forward to that.
yeah. Okay, Hilary looks like she wants to say something.
I'm good.
Well, I mean, I wanted you to answer the question.
Yes.
Oh, you don't want to?
Well, I was going to joke about how Ogre Battle is like Evilise's like perky younger go-getter cousin or something. But
Really related but unrelated. It's
Yeah.
We'll get into that.
musically speaking, Ogre Battle has more like horns.
Yeah.
But anyway,
I'm just gonna leave that one alone.
So first off, I'm here because I really like being on composer episodes. I find it really interesting looking at the different works a single person has worked on and kind of talking about their signatures, similarities, their range, stuff like that. But I've also been following his work for a really long time. I mean, I was little. The Super Nintendo Ogre Battle was probably one of the first few RPGs that I watched someone play.
Yeah.
When I was little. And of course, I loved Tactics. And then I've been really interested in like his Best Escape stuff more recently, which is a bit of a shift, like from the other earlier sounds.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, maybe we'll get into that today.
Maybe we will.
All right. How about you, Audra?
Well, similar to everyone, my first exposure to his work was Final Fantasy Tactics. And
We're all old.
Yeah. And I was too young to really be paying attention to composers at that time. But actually, looking back now, a lot of the games I've really enjoyed the music from, he's played a part in. He's even composed some of my favorite Tekken 6 songs.
Oh, that's right.
Oh, that's cool.
That's funny.
So-
And they're specifically your favorites?
Yeah. Yeah, so I just kind of, when I saw that this was a topic, I wanted to be on it.
We missed an opportunity to have a Tekken song as our bonus track.
I was going to say, if you left it up to me, I'd probably pull something from Gradius 5 just because it's hilarious to me that he did that. And I never knew.
Well, I mean, Retro just did not too long ago the non-RPG episode. So, I mean, we can also do RPG composers who have done other things, right?
I'm almost positive we have a card for that.
I think there is a card.
I feel like there probably
I
is.
really want to do that. Yeah, it's like one of these days I want to do a topic that's, it's people who are generally known for RPGs, but we're going to just have music from non-RPGs. So maybe we can get some Tekken in that one.
Yes, that would be awesome.
Yeah.
Street Fighter 2 soundtrack better be on there then.
Oh, yes.
Oh, yeah.
So with all that being said, I'm sure nobody has picked Final Fantasy Tactics as a song, right?
No.
Or as anything from it after all of our origin stories?
I absolutely was not going to pick Final Fantasy Tactics. It was the obvious choice because, of course, Hilary
It's
and I
excellent
were
on the episode, so...
Hilary and I were the last ones to pick songs, and I'm like, look, Greg and Audra didn't pick Tactics. I'm not going to pick it because, I mean, you always are going to want Tactics, and it's an obvious choice. Anyway, my first song is from Final Fantasy Tactics. I mean,
just put this on the T-ball tee for you.
I was also not going to because we had a Tactics song in episode 105. I mean, it was a piano arrangement.
Right. Purple Shala. It's lovely.
I was going to say, you brought that one, didn't you?
No. That was one of Eddie's choices.
Oh, okay.
Eddie did anything that wasn't from the game.
Right.
We did Chain Echo's choices.
Yeah, I forgot about that album because that album came out like just a few months ago. The Piano Collections Tactics.
It's very good. I'm glad he introduced me to it because it wasn't on my radar.
Yeah, I gotta check it out.
But anyways,
so okay, well, see that's fine then because you're right. That was a guest that brought it on, not a staff person.
Yeah, it's Eddie's fault.
Yeah. I thought like, it's one of those things I always say like we try to avoid the obvious picks sometimes, but at the same time, sometimes we do that for so long that we're like, oh, why has this never been on the show? So.
Why do we keep getting such angry fan mail and responses in Discord? Oh, right.
Yeah, it's just, at the very least, I knew that because his work in like Tactics or just the Evilise games in general are so important and so well known to the RPG fan base, like I knew it still had to be here somewhere. So I'm talking about the song ahead of time and I'm not supposed to. That's against the rules. I should fire myself.
Oh, sorry. I did that to you.
No, that's okay. That's a little preamble, but
It wasn't about the song specifically, so I think you're okay.
you're right.
Yeah.
You're right. So, all right.
Mild spoilers, y'all.
Mild spoilers. So yeah, let's get to some music here. So our first block, as you might have guessed from that entire conversation, our first block is going to be some Ivalice music. So my first song is the unfortunately too short but gorgeous title song from Final Fantasy Tactics, which is Bland Logo Title Back.
Yeah, don't let that title fool you.
Yeah, no kidding.
One of these days I'll look up why it's called that. I'm sure someone listening knows. I thought about it too late today, but I don't know why it's called that, but it's beautiful and I love it. So that's what we're starting with. And then Hilary, what is your first song?
So we're doing an Ivalice frame here because my song is from the end of Vagrant Story, and it's Dawn on Leomond.
Nice.
Okay. That's eye-opening.
Well, let's go listen to a Bland Logo and Dawn on Leomond. All right. So first of all, anyone listening who went into a rage when I said bland logo, I sort of apologize. It's funny when you are collecting soundtracks in the 90s and ripping them and relying on online track lists, what you get. So over the little break, I was just double checking that, and turns out there's so many versions of this track list now. So apparently the original Japanese track list was written in English and did say bland logo, which of course could be translated and probably is meant to be translated as brand logo. That said, there's also an alternate English track listing where it's just called, are you ready? Opening. So whether we want to call it opening or brand logo, anyway, it's the opening for Final Fantasy Tactics. So I'm sorry for almost spreading misinformation or at least outdated translations. But yeah.
Whatever, good songs are good.
Yeah. Well, like I said, I wish I had thought to look it up before starting to talk about it, and now I see why. So I'm gonna retype this and say brand logo. So anyway, as for the song itself, I think there's probably only a handful of video game music tracks that I'd probably use the words evocative or even iconic to describe, but this is one of them. Not that there isn't a ton of great music out there, but there are certain songs that are just so immediately recognizable, and maybe it depends on what you grew up with, and when this came out and how much of an impression it left on you. Since this is still the only strategy RPG I have ever played to completion, obviously this game left a big impression on me. So, but I can't ever hear this, the first couple seconds of the song, and not just immediately picture that opening cutscene and thinking about the Zodiac Braves. And it's just this and Final Fantasy VII, they came out a few months apart, at least here. And there's something about those opening themes, completely unrelated, different composers and everything, but
songs I can see for 400, Alex.
Yes. There's only a whole lot I can say. That's brilliant.
You can talk about the song longer than the song actually plays, which is kind of funny.
It is funny.
So do go on.
We already have, yeah. Like I said, it's maybe not the most original choice from Tactics, but it's also some of the sweetest 70 seconds of RPG music out there.
Mm-hmm.
This isn't a game I hear remixed a whole lot, or at least I'd never stumbled across them, and I probably should, because I like it. I would love to hear an expanded version, given that 50 of those 70 seconds are sort of building to something. I like how it builds up and there's this triumphant little ending, but it would be cool to have an extended version.
Mm-hmm.
But anyway,
yeah, it'd be really cool to have it worked into a medley.
Yeah, I like how I went from describing how perfect it is to I want more, but only because I like it.
I want more of a good thing.
I think one of the things that makes this song amazing is what it accomplishes in that really short time frame, because I can't think of very many other game songs that have such a wonderful frame to introduce you to the story and the game and get you ready to delve in. I love the way this song kind of has a mysterious sort of tingly piano beginning, but he also manages to sneak in quietly some of those really famous kind of hints of some of the strong Ivalice melodies.
Yep.
I mean, they're very short little hints, maybe 3 or 4 bars, but they're there. And then he frames it with more of that kind of tinkly piano, yes, this is a legendary story. And then complete silence. And then all of a sudden that really triumphant ending that's sort of let's go. Let's start this.
Yeah, it's got every, like you said, every bit. It's got the intrigue, it's got the heart, it's got that there's going to be some magic or something mystical, mythical,
Mm-hmm.
whatever. There's the clear conflict, and then there's that triumph from the synthetic stuff. And the thing is also, I think is really cool about it, unlike a lot of title sequences and such too, is there's no loop. It's just that's it. It doesn't
Mm-hmm.
play itself into just doing the same thing. It's okay, song's done. The troops are rallied. Are you ready, my lord? What ho? Don your armor. Here's your blade. To the field, kind of thing. It's done. You're ready or you're not. That's it. And if you're not ready, then you all of a sudden get a really energetic in your face song about the jobs, or which which gives you a heart attack if you're not ready for it, or you get the backstory. I remember I had a recording of that song, but whoever, I guess, had it, it was just mastered louder than most of the other stuff I had on my computer at the time. So anytime that song came on, it would just like punch me in the ears.
I'm going to set that as my alarm now.
Nice.
Do, 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 do. Squires.
And see, what I got out of all of that is I got the visual, thanks to what you just said, of Thunder God Sid appearing on the battlefield saying, "What ho!" So thanks, Greg.
You're welcome. His beard is majestic.
Yes.
It is.
I mean, everything about him is majestic, really.
You're not wrong.
One might say godly.
One might.
Except for himself. Humble
Yes.
so-and-so. I've been replaying that game, so this song comes up a lot.
Oh, you have?
Yeah, I've been doing the War of the Lions version on my device, so...
I've still never played that version.
Which, dear goodness, they really need to friggin' port that, and if rumor mills are true, hopefully we'll finally get it.
Oh, yes.
And possibly with an even further mastered soundtrack. Because it's fun, because, like, at the time, you think, like, oh, that sounds so real, but now, like, you can hear the synthetic nature, but even then, it's close. Like, it's a little tricky. It's really the horns that kind of give it away, but...
Yeah, I think it's something, it's kind of like the Legend of Mana or something. Like, we're just some kind of, like, light-ish remastering, I think would do really nice.
Yeah, make an already fantastic soundtrack better.
I think a lot of his work makes me very, very happy for the evolving nature of like video game music production, because he has a very blendy orchestral kind of sound. So like I think back to some of the early Ogre battle music, and it's great, but like I think I appreciate his Evilly stuff and his more recent stuff all the more because you're able to get more of that orchestral sound.
Yeah.
But like Uematsu too, and many other composers using that stuff at the time too, I think he part of what made his stuff so great too is again working with the limitations and really pushing it as much as he could. Right? It's very impressive how they all do that. Like I can't even begin to wrap my head around the genius of all that.
I appreciate you, Hilary, as a storyteller, because you just managed to foreshadow like at least 3 upcoming songs between Ogre Battle and Orchestra Talk. Very nice.
Well, and I think also saying a lot in a single song is also very indicative of some other, of a very close upcoming choice.
Yeah.
Because I've got thoughts, having never heard it before.
Of this next song?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
You were welcome to start if you'd like.
Yeah, I'll take that. Sure. Yeah, I've always wanted to play Vagrant Story, and I haven't. And so, because I'm sure, Hilary, you actually have context and you'll kind of be able to clear that up for me, then I'll take my notes out of context and see how far afield it is or whatever.
I do have some context, yeah.
Yeah. So it's... it's a game I really want to play, especially since Eva's enthusiasm for it when they played it. I really want to get into it. So this song, I mean, the fact that you said it plays at the end or whatever makes more sense, but it fakes you right the heck out. I was like, what is going on here? Because it's so somber just in those few opening moments. And it's like, surprise, I'm going minor to major. It's not so bad. Oh, but let's repeat it and make it sound a little sad again. But don't worry, there's horns here to warm it up again. And then it starts to like, then the orchestra supports all that. And it's like aspirational and hopeful. And like, I just feel like the whatever's going on though, like that hope and that positivity, it's just so fragile throughout the song that like at any moment it's just gonna like break until you kind of get that reassuring weird synthetic choral thing coming in that's like, don't worry, it's all good, peace be with you or whatever. And then and it's so, and then all of a sudden it's like, okay, now I'm a new song and I'm stately, and there's either confrontation or some reflection or yay, things turned out or not. I'm not quite sure, because again, like it's back to that tenuous piece, and then finally it just rounds out completely different again, being like, oh right, magic, and then triumph, you did it, and then I'm like, what is going on?
It's a lot.
That was my whole journey.
I mean, this song really does send you on a journey, and actually I think that's instinctively why it is a good representative of Vagrant Story, because that's exactly how that game made me feel.
Good to know, because I thought it was just like a cutscene somewhere in the middle. I'm like, there's a lot going on.
Yeah, well, it's like, it's sort of a mystery, and then it's framed as a flashback story, And then there's a little bit of the like, who are the baddies really going on? And nothing is as it initially appears in that game. Meanwhile, you're also discovering like a very strange magical city that may be a source of dark power.
Wow, that's very you too.
Oh, is it?
Yeah.
And I shouldn't say may. It is, but we're not exactly sure what's going on with the dark power because no one's inheriting it, but maybe they are.
But we've never gotten the sequel to find out.
Right.
And apologies if there are some slight inaccuracies there. It's been a very long time. But all that just to say, it is a convoluted, but very interesting and very atmospheric and well executed story.
And did it suffer from similar any of like similar translation localization issues that like Tactics initially did, which was cleaned up in the War of the Lions version?
I don't remember it. So, like,
not that I know of.
Yeah, not that I know of.
You remember it made sense?
Yeah, I do remember that it made sense, yes. And
not that Tactics
little...
didn't, but rough around the edges.
No, and they put a significant amount of effort into kind of like dialect and making it feel a little bit old timey.
Okay, that's cool. Because I was curious if it ever got a remaster, just how could they clean that up and maybe even make that story even more either clearer or just more powerful. I don't know if even it would need it. So it sounds like it doesn't.
I would love for them to remaster this one. It's actually it is one of the ones I missed because that era of like early PlayStation with Square, like they released so many games. In fact, the only other time period I can think of where Square Enix released quite as many games as that era was this last fall, where there was a new Square Enix release like every week or so.
Except now we're not working minimum wage jobs.
True.
And trying to go to university.
But yeah, I mean, this was one of the ones I missed. I played so many others at the time. I played both Final Fantasies and 7 and Tactics and Parasite Eve and Musashi and Xenogears and like all of these things, but somehow this is one of the ones I missed at the time and have never gotten back to it. So I know the music a bit, but not much about the game, but I'm sure it would be something I would like.
Yeah, that's kind of my exposure to it as well. I'm sure I would love it because I love Natsuno's work in general, but
it fits in very, very well. And y'all are missing a bunch of characters with Shakespeare names, though.
Ooh.
It has both Rosencrantz and Guildenstern.
See, that I knew.
Oh, that's right. Yeah. Do you fight them, don't you? Is that a thing?
I can't remember. I think you might fight both of them at some point.
Okay, spoilers. This game is only 20-something years old.
Oh, right.
I want to give this game to someone who doesn't know and just be like, here, play this. It's that story, Rosencrantz and Guildenstern are dead.
Oh my god.
Play this Shakespeare game. You're going to really confuse someone.
Is this Shakespeare?
The Shakespeare game. Well, no, I just mean because of the character names.
Some kid writing their high school, my daughter writing their thing like, and then Ashley fought against, and they're like, what story did they read?
That Shakespeare story where Ashley fights the big demon.
Right, look, I'm pretty sure Ashley Wright is not a character in Hamlet.
And then Beowulf saved the dragon lady. And then someone jumped on top of him to get Cloud's sword.
And Sidney was there and he killed the king.
Right.
Matsuna's messing up all of our perspectives of Shakespeare.
Yeah. And then Sid came in, who's only sort of called Sid.
There you go.
And then we had to queue up to meet Titania, but we couldn't find a fighter main, so it took us a few hours.
Wow. All right. Yeah, actually 14 has kind of taken the mantle as far as like Shakespeare references.
Oh, yeah. Shadowbringers, for sure.
Anyway.
But sorry, jokes aside, Audra, you were saying probably more important stuff about the song.
Oh, it's a very powerful song. I love it, and I can see what you mean about it having almost like a tentative feel to it at times. Like you don't know if whatever's going on is going to last or...
Yeah, I mean, you get these really strong glimpses. Like, I almost picture kind of like a really warm dawn, like it's almost too hot already. But then the song kind of scales back and it's all tentative again. So like the bright parts are very bright.
Yeah, it's a very, when you think of something like an emotional roller coaster, usually it's, really, really high highs and low lows. That I feel like the way you guys are describing it is like it's sort of like that, but not as extreme. Like it goes up a little bit and down a little bit. Like it's a softer roller coaster because you're like, I can't figure out what the tone is here. Like, should I be hopeful or should I be concerned?
You should be all these things at once.
Okay.
Well, dawn is beginning, and
Yeah. And I can see why Matsuno, I guess, kind of like took on working with Sakimoto continuously too, because he does capture that energy so well, and Matsuno is no stranger to ambiguous endings and such of like he doesn't like the happy ending, so to speak, of like, yeah, you may have fixed this problem, but humanity still exists, right? So they're bound to mess up again later.
Right.
And Sakimoto really hits that nicely, and with all of his motifs and such.
And honestly, I think this is a testament to his work, because if this was not handled well musically, I don't think I'd be able to listen to it. It would just be too much of a contrast, but somehow it all works. Mm-hmm. For me, at least. Might not be true of everybody, but...
Yes, it only works for you. We don't actually like it. It's just you.
I knew it.
You've made me hate Sakimoto. I'm out.
Wow, I'd be impressed if that were true.
Greg, there's 6 more songs. Come back.
It's 2 less now that I'm not here.
Yeah, that's true. Oh, well.
You have the next track.
Yeah.
Which is suitably titled, given my behavior right now.
Yeah, so which one shall we?
Why are you revolting, Greg?
Yeah, that's perfect timing. Let's go.
Yep. All right, so we did our Evilise block, so I figured the next thing should be an Ogre battle block.
Yay.
Q Queen.
Yes. I don't think we can play Queen on here, though. I think Adam Lambert will get mad at us. So we're not going to do that. But what is our next song, Greg?
Revolt from Ogre Battle 64 Person of Lordly Caliber, as opposed to the original version, which I'll talk about. But yeah, got to get some Ogre Battle in here.
Of course. And speaking of Ogre Battle, what's our song after that, Audra?
Oh, it is Limitation from Tactics Ogre, Let Us Cling Together.
All right. Well, let's go take a listen to Revolt and Limitation.
So yeah, Revolt is pretty much the first battle map theme that you hear in Ogre Battle March of the Black Queen, which was the SNES, and then also ported to the was it Sega Saturn? Yeah, and the PlayStation 1. So basically the first battle song anyone in North America would have heard on the Ogre Battle series. Mm-hmm. But on the Castle Warren, because I don't think anything came before it, right?
No, I think it is Castle Warren.
Yeah. So yeah, and it's pretty much like this one of the stable themes. It comes back the most often, but I wanted to go with the version on the N64, Ogre Battle 64, Person of Lordly Caliber, because the N64 just let it have a much richer, more dynamic sound. Mm-hmm. So the song, which already has so much pomp to it, just has that much more instrumentation that brings it much more to life. It makes it much more robust a piece of music. And like, it just sets the tone for that whole game so easily. With everything in Ogre Battle, it's very much that like militaristic, political vibe. And it was interesting as I was listening to this and trying to put my notes into words, I was really discovering the key difference between Hilary was saying that Ogre Battle is kind of like the plucky younger brother, so to speak, but they are to Tactics, but they are very different games. And even like Tactics Ogre, even though Ogre's in the name, Tactics Ogre is more akin to Final Fantasy Tactics than it is Ogre Battle, March of the Black Queen, and Ogre Battle 64. They are so tonally different because the gameplay is so impersonal in Ogre Battle. Mm-hmm. Like, you're a military leader overseeing your troops, so like having these grand sweeping militaristic marches makes sense, whereas like when you listen to like the Tactics songs, like what we will with Audra's piece, the stakes are a lot higher in those battles on those maps, because you're dealing with like on the macro, like with the individual units and the people, like you see the faces, so to speak, a bit more than you would
it's
in
personal.
Like, yeah. Mm-hmm. So
you even see their noses. Oh,
that's not true. I mean, maybe if you're on the map, but yeah, so I thought that was really interesting in how well Sakimoto and everybody else that worked on those soundtracks did a great job of really defining the vibes between the direction that the battle takes you in each of those games. And even though, again, they share a world and some stuff like that, beyond that, like, they're still very much their own distinct gameplays, and the music really lends to that.
Yeah, it's interesting. I was going to generalize after our Evil East block and say one of the things I really like about Sakimoto's work is, in terms of video game composers, he really strikes me as kind of impressionistic, able to, paint evocative emotional impressions of things, mm-hmm. and ambiguity, and he uses very kind of intricate instrumentation and kind of blends of sound, stuff like that. And Ogre Battle, I think, is a series where he does this the least. I mean, there's still some very interesting stuff going on, but it's a little bit more clear, a little bit more, like you said, it has pomp.
On the noses they don't have.
Mm-hmm. I don't know, I love this song. I remember it very well from March of the Black Queen. I think nothing says get ready for an SRPG battle to me than the opening sting of this song.
Yeah, and it's a nice callback to what put this game on the map. It's where the series, I guess, on the map in a sense, even though this game particularly was very mixed reception.
Yeah.
I don't know if it was true or not, because it's like pre or early internet, but I feel like I heard from my friend who had this game that there was a recall out for it or whatever, because it was so poorly received, because people didn't really know how to make heads or tail of it, because it was so dramatic, but it looked so cartoony.
Really?
So it just really like tanked in a weird way, unfortunately. But I was just thinking of it now, I haven't ever really gone back to corroborate whether that was just urban myth or whatever, like healing, like bringing Aerith back to life kind of thing,
Right.
This must have been when we all were still just getting used to anime and the idea that something could be very serious or disturbing
and still kind of cutesy looking.
And cartoony, yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I hadn't heard that myself, so, I mean...
If that's true, yeah.
It could be true. It would be weird if it was really received that poorly, given that I know people look back on it fondly, and it's also one of the rare N64 games that, like, kept getting ported. Like, it was on... I think it was on the Wii and the Wii U? Or was it at least... It was on one of the Wii's
eShop.
Yeah. So, like, that was pretty surprising to see that.
I mean, we got Spanky's quest, so clearly anything goes.
Wow. Well, that's
with porting these days.
That's not really selling this game though.
I'm kidding.
Now,
All that being
we
said,
got Spanky's quest and not this on Switch.
Right? Only a matter of time though.
Hopefully, yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
But yeah, it's I just love how this version of it really lets you hear like the bells come out clearer and like all the percussion is just a bit cleaner. It's just not as crunchy as it was on the SNES. And it's still a really lovely song, like you said, Hilary. Like, it really does what it's supposed to do really well on the SNES. But yeah, this version just has so much more going on in it.
It sets a mood, I think. It's a really good one for the battle theme.
Mm-hmm. Well, and that's just the thing, too, like you were saying, Hilary, like how these are much more of a kind of like a general military feel. I think that does a good job too, especially in I mean, again, I have more familiarity with the thank you, Ponzu, for your opinion. I have more familiarity with the SNES one, of course, but like it does, because it's like, this isn't the battle music, right? Because then when the units meet, then there's actual battle music, so the contrast is even higher, and that's where the stakes are higher, is in that music itself. Obviously, like the tension in there, which was really dramatic in the SNES one, and I can't remember, it's been so long since I've listened to the 64 count soundtrack, I can't remember if it's as equally intense or not, but I think that's important too, is like when the battle does matter.
The way battles work in this game, they're over fast.
They are, yeah.
And sometimes you have to do them repeatedly because like you have to, it's sort of proportional actually, rather than just like totally destroying the enemy units. So it's interesting. And in March of the Black Queen.
Yeah, and it's similar in 64 did the same thing, except they just changed it that you could like actually face your units, so the way you attacked them also really messed with the arrangement. So like, whereas on the SNES, you had a front row and a back row, and that was it. They always met face to face, as if they're like in like the American Revolution. But if it's in 64, if you attacked from the side and you had weaker units on the outside, like then they could actually get at like your party wizard or whatever from that angle a lot easier. So it kind of mattered how you approached your enemies, which was really a nice way to kind of add dynamics to the system, which I'm sure they've all talked about on the Retro Encounter episode where they played Ogre Battle 64 early in the year.
Yeah. So yeah, just picture, I mean, it's so easy for me to picture with this song, just units traversing the map, marching along, day, night goes by. Some of them are finding towns. Some of them are drawing awful tarot cards that make them mad at them. Yeah, liberation. Boo.
Yeah, it has like a preparation feel.
Yeah.
Well, I like the way you guys were describing earlier too, like comparing and contrasting about like what you said, Hilary, about it's more, well, you didn't say upbeat. It has like a lighter tone than like what you might expect from some like strategy RPG games. You know, like it has that like, you know, army marching kind of feel to it, but not as grim as some of them might be. Like sometimes they're like really serious, and this one's like, it sort of has this like victorious or like sort of an upbeat sort of feel to it. Like it's optimistic. We're marching into battle, but you know we're feeling all right about it.
We're taking a theoretical long-term view of battle here, and not really getting into the awful grim aspects of it.
Yes.
Well, it's true. Well, and that's the difference, right? Like, where tactics, like, you see the faces of the people you're sending into battle, so it's much more personal in those battles. Like, every unit counts kind of thing in this, whereas you don't see them, you're just kind of sending them out there and such, and so it's like having that marching band bringing morale to the troops, and you don't really see... Because the thing is, where the games do then kind of cross over is the intrigue and the political drama that plays out in the back rooms and such, in the staterooms and between the characters in the story parts, which only got more intense. It was very light in March of the Black Queen, but it definitely stepped it up in Person of Lordly Caliber. The scenes were much more involved.
There were hints of it at first, like you could get certain units to join you, but you had to figure out how to do things a certain way to get them to agree, and like... Yeah,
and it really fleshes out the story in a nice way, but again, like, it was all just a face on the map. Like, you didn't actually have scenes play out like you do in Tactics, and then, of course, they brought that in Person of Lordly Caliber, where you see people behind closed doors at the command meetings and all that sort of stuff. So that's where like some of the gravitas comes in, which he plays around a lot more in the soundtrack for Person of Lordly Caliber, which wasn't there in Ogre Battle. It was March of the Black Queen. It's such a small soundtrack, that soundtrack.
You mean 64 or March of the Black Queen?
March of the Black Queen.
Yep.
By comparison to Person of Lordly
yeah.
Caliber. 64 bits of cart, 64 bits of drama.
Well, before this becomes a full Ogre Battle 64 podcast, we also have a Tactics Ogre song to talk about.
Well, this song's a battle theme, and that plays at times, and it's just, I love the instrumentation for it. I feel like it really has an intense build-up that just captures the feel of desperation of people fighting probably the units face to face, and just, yeah, you can kind of tell it's like battles to the death, but like it's
The
just,
stakes are high, yeah.
yeah, it's a very intense song, and I just love it.
So in my notes, all running through them is sort of like, there are lots of descending packages. It almost kind of sounds like the inverse to the last one is what I said, just because the first one's sort of like, okay, it's kind of exploratory almost, and this one is definitely more, it has descending passages. It really feels like it's a particularly difficult map, or you have a lot of constraints, or maybe there's a difficult wind condition. Like, it just sounds very tense.
There's limitations to it.
Yeah, exactly. Just like the name says.
Well, that's what's neat about like Final Fantasy Tactics, and I guess this as well, because again, I feel like these two soundtracks have a lot more in common than Ogre Battle and Tactics Ogre would have. And just like some of those songs, like you're just wandering around the map and like you're just like, oh, Mandalia Plains, 4 chocobos and a goblin, really not a problem, but like it's still like really intense music.
Yeah.
And it's really easy for those battles to go south if you're not careful anyways.
Oh, and I did actually, this is the PSP version orchestral soundtrack, so I kind of just, that's the version I played, so I went with it.
Good to know.
Yeah, I imagine the reimagined version got a bit of a
I think they probably
update.
Yep.
Yeah, I haven't listened to a lot of it yet. I've heard some of it, and I like what I've heard so far.
I'm saving it for when I actually play it, so I'm trying not to spoil myself.
That makes sense.
Because goodness do I want to, because like you said, Mike, there's so many good games, and this was one I missed on the PS1. It was like, I was weirdly dismissive of it, and then like after I finally played Tactics, I was like, why didn't I get that game too?
I think many of us are saying that about that period, but budgets.
I mean, for me, like Final Fantasy Tactics was like some of the most. That was like the most amount of time I ever put, I think, into a single game.
Easy to do.
Now, I had also maxed out the clock in Final Fantasy VII at least twice by that point, so I don't really know. It maxes out at 99.59, by the way. I don't actually know how many hours I spent on multiple playthroughs of 7, but I was very surprised and impressed when Final Fantasy Tactics kept going after 100. So I think I finished at like 125 hours or something. So I was like, boy, is this how long these games are? Maybe that's why I didn't play any others, because it was quite a commitment.
Yeah, SRPG tactics SRPGs can be very lengthy.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, this one also I have not played. So remember what I said about the last one, where it was like sort of optimistic, not exactly upbeat. I feel like this song, the Tactics Ogre one, is the battle song that instills a sense of like impending victory, or at least an optimistic outcome by way of musical inspiration. That sounds really dramatic. I'm just reading my notes word for word, but I'm like, wow, it sounds more dramatic when you say it out loud. But I really like especially the energetic, like kind of brassy instruments. They really come in just around the 3-minute mark. I mean, they kind of stay with the song at that point, but when they come in at that point, I'm like, oh, this is fun.
It's like the cavalry's here.
I love the like.
It's sort of, I feel like that's the point in the song where it's like, wait a minute, there's a way to win.
Yeah.
Yes.
But it does have like a nice ebb and flow, like especially when they cut out and the strings come in. There's like, it's not so much like you're going to lose or whatever, but there's just moments where there's like a break and a rest and like let's reevaluate here. Like let's not just keep pushing because we could get in over our heads if we're not careful. Yep. So it's like, and then it just kind of builds back up to like, okay, we got this and let's go.
I feel like this is the song that would play like, your army's there, and like on like the dawn of the third day, everyone looks to the east. Up on the hill, and there, silhouetted against the sun, is Shrek and Donkey. Come to save the day.
Unit Shrek and Unit Donkey.
Unit Shrek and Unit Donkey, yes.
Well,
now,
it's like
I have no idea if any of the Ogre / Shrek comments that we said earlier off air are actually going to be on the episode by the time that comes up.
We're all going to name our Ogre Battle units Donkey now.
Yeah. So I don't know if that's going to pay off for anyone except us. Anyone listening is probably just confused. But sorry, what were you saying?
Ogres.
Yes.
Which we can all appreciate. I don't know if in any of the Ogre Battle games I've ever actually had an actual ogre in them. They just talk about the Ogre Battle.
Ah.
I keep remembering my octopus kraken unit that for some reason was totally happy going around on land.
They do it slowly, but
yeah,
gosh, they can be really good little murder arthropods.
Murder krakens. Okay, so wait, you can have octopus kraken like units, but there's no ogres.
Yeah,
right.
You have monster units. I had griffins when I was protected.
There's got to be an
ogres.
Ogre
We're not one of them.
There has to be an ogre somewhere.
Yeah, not in it wasn't even like a hidden unit or anything. Like you keep expecting to come across them, they just get tucked of in lore.
Oh, here comes. Oh, we're gonna meet the ogre. Nope.
Just kidding. There's not even like an enemy whose title is the ogre, kind of thing. Who's like Janus the ogre.
Janus
Blockman, whatever, who is like some terrible tyrant. Like it's whatever. It's it was always really interesting. And then of course all the Queen references, like the song Ogre Battle and stuff like that.
Right.
But really both very cool songs and very different vibes. Like, again, Limitation does just get much more specific, as so much of the Tactics kind of music does. Which I actually draw also a weird comparison to the music from Octopath, where even like the basic whatever battles just all sounded so intense and like boss music. Like every song could be a boss track in that with out of context. So it kind of sounds similar in like a lot of Tactics. Like just there's a lot on the line in these games, which it's kind of true depending on also how you play it. So
okay, I'm just saying this out loud since you talked about it, but Octopath, the way you describe Octopath's battle music, that's also how I would describe the battle music in Final Fantasy 15. Every single regular battle in that game is so intense musically.
That's fair.
I want to do an episode about that now.
Intense.
I don't know. I think it'll be interesting. Like, basically a catchy way of saying like regular battle music that sounds like boss battles.
This battle goes to 11.
This battle goes to 11. I like it. That being said, intense music sounds like the name of your sleep episode.
Yeah, I get it. Yeah, very nice.
Wait, is that a pun? Like intense music could be the end music episode?
There you go.
Yeah. Look, Greg's a dad. Okay, it's gonna happen.
I'm impressed with that.
All right. So now that we've played 4 songs that people, we at least represented 4 games that people probably expected to be here. Let's go talk about 4 that maybe are less expected. I'm actually really excited about the second half of this episode.
Yes.
I believe it's something else I foreshadowed.
Yes, I think so.
Mm-hmm. And so did Mike. Yeah, we got some cool stuff. And I think I've got the first one, don't I? In this
you do.
Block. Did you have a fancy name for this block in your head canon?
No, I didn't actually. If you have an idea, I'm not sure how these two go together to make a single.
I mean,
block.
They're probably like our softest hits. Like they're very, they're the most chill of the entire block, which is probably why you paired them together. And also, it's it's my second song, and both my songs actually were new to the podcast. I don't think that we've had any Ogre Battle 64 or this one from Crimson Shroud, which I chose A World Where Magic Never Was from this little 3DS gem.
I believe it's 3DS.
Yeah, it's not.
It just took me a second to remember. It's been so long since the launch, and it was one of like those weird early little kind of experimental launch-ish. It was in the first year or so-ish.
It's not a game people talk about a lot. Actually, I don't think it's a game people talked about a whole lot back then either. So
we did some retro episodes on it. Which,
I distinctly remember being spoken about back on Random Encounter by Rob.
Yeah.
And so it always sticks out in my mind, which is partly why I went back to play it. So a few years back. So anyways, great music on that.
Yeah. All right. After that, I am returning to Breath of Fire again. I actually found out something a little bit funny about Breath of Fire and how it relates to Rhythm Encounter, but I'll save that for after. But we are going to be listening to the middle layer area from Breath of Fire Dragon Quarter.
What an evocative title.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I almost brought Calling from a Distance, which is even more so, but I did not. Let's go listen to A World Where Magic Never Was and the Middle Layer Area.
Find out.
So good songs, yeah. I remember I was exploring songs for this episode, and I kind of forgotten that he had worked on Odin Sphere, and so I went down a really deep Odin Sphere hole for a while, because there's a lot of great music in that game. But I ultimately kept exploring further, and I forgot that he had done Crimson Shroud, and I was like, well, I've actually played that one, so then I started leaning heavily on that, and I was really torn between one of the battle songs and this one, but ultimately I had a feeling there'd probably be a lot more energetic tunes coming on, and my other one was like, a more martial piece from Ogre Battle, so I was like, yeah, I want this lovely reflective sense of wonder piece that is a world where magic never was. It's okay, well, before we go into how much more lovely it is, can we talk about how thirsty the album art is?
Yeah,
it is quite thirsty.
It pretty much is.
That's fair.
Not that that's going to be, in this episode post, but yeah, if you look it up, it sure is.
Check the show notes. We'll link to a picture of the album cover so you can see for yourself.
It's kind of equal opportunity, but it's just very this is not the dynamic they had in the game. So what is going on in this album art? I don't understand. Why is everybody in their underwear? I don't get it.
Mm-hmm.
But at any rate, I had never seen it before until I brought it up. I was just like, what the heck's going on here? Anyways. But yeah, it's funny because Crimson Shroud, a lot of the music is very Evilisian. But I don't think it's actually set in the world of Ivalice. But the song it's got a lot of heart. I don't remember exactly where it plays anymore. It's been so long. And the story's kind of these little vignettes and stuff in Crimson Shroud. So it's
kind of like Odin Sphere.
I guess so,
Each character has their sections and their stories kind of intersect.
Because they're three little treasure hunters or whatever. But everything, they're in the actual gameplay, they're little game pieces. So it's in you roll dice. So it kind of feels like you're playing sort of a tabletop-ish kind of thing, but not quite. But they're just kind of still through all of their cutscenes. But then I think when they went back, I can't remember if they had artwork or not. It's been a while since I've played it. I need to revisit it with the recent Crimson Shroud episode that was on Retro. But yeah, this song is it's very sweet. It's very lovely. It's like a rare moment of respite because this whole game takes place inside of this dungeon, so it's always dark and dank and awful in its way. So it's just, yeah, I don't know if it focuses on the main girl. I'm blanking on her name, but I know she had a very troubled past, so if it's something reflective of her or not. But it's just, yeah, I'm eager to hear what other people have to say, because I don't have much to really say except for it's just a beautiful, sweet, reflective song that just makes you feel at ease.
Yeah, it's got kind of an open easiness to it, but also a little bit of somberness or maybe melancholy.
Yeah, yeah.
What I said earlier about Sakimoto feeling a little bit impressionist as a composer, that came out, I think, the most actually in this song out of all of them, just because of the instrumentation. It's got that back and forth between the flute and strings and swelling string passages, and just the way it's constructed sounds very almost Debussy.
And there's a clarinet, I think, that carries things too beautifully. Or something. It's not. I don't think it's an oboe, but it's something like that.
Yeah, and once again, you have a lot of melding and kind of mixing of the different instruments, doing things at the same time to create kind of a mood or kind of a soundscape. It's just really pretty.
Yeah, Sakimoto doesn't. It's very rare that he uses silence to highlight something.
Unless it's at the beginning of Tactics.
Drama.
It's very pretty and wistful.
Yep.
In a way.
Good word.
And actually magical, which is ironic because the titles. Yep.
Well, that's why I'm struggling to remember, because I feel like it's less about there's no magic, because if I recall correctly, the female is your magic user. So magic exists. I think it's more, that's why I was thinking it has to do with her story and the tragedy of her past, because she didn't get to grow up in a world of magic as a child, so to speak. Her innocence was stolen from her in some regard, one way or the other. I forget how deep it goes. But I think that's partly where the wistfulness and stuff comes from. There's some, again, I could be way off base. It's been a while since I played, and I might be just making something up, but that's coming to my mind.
I know there was a people that were prejudiced against that could use magic, I think.
Okay.
And I think she was a member of that group, so yeah. I think that fits kind of well for her, actually. It's been a while since I played it too. So.
Yeah. Because I remember they did spread it around the three of them, but I feel like she was kind of almost like the main protagonist in a weird way. Like, I feel like she got the most time, or at least her story made the most impact, maybe.
Yeah, I think she's the one, well, she was the one telling the story to the guy, and then there's a big plot reveal and twist.
Right.
And yeah.
And I think one thing I want to bring up while we're on this song specifically is just kind of like a transition in Sakimoto's career that's very notable. So he started kind of early becoming a freelancer. And one of the impressive things about his music career is just the high profile kind of gigs that he got as a freelancer, including, I think, 12. He wasn't actually in House of Square when he did Final Fantasy 12.
Okay.
I didn't realize that, although this is very 12-ish sounding, actually, now that you mention that.
And the company he started with was Ice Escape, which contributed to the Crimson Shroud, Odin Sphere, and my last pick as well. I'm foreshadowing again. So it's just really neat to see this transition with him, and just to kind of think about how collaborative he is, just with his early stuff, with tactics. Like it's just, I don't know. I think it's something that kind of distinguishes him as a composer, is just all the teamwork.
Mm-hmm. If I guess this is the founding date. Boy, I don't know what we would do on this show if we didn't have VGMDB as a reference, because they even have company pages.
2002.
It says Base Escape started in 2002. So yeah, that was 4 years before 12.
And then jump cut 10 years later, he gets
Episode Arden.
Crimson Shroud. But again, he's still working as a team on that one. It wasn't even like all... I mean, he was the sound director, but like he wasn't the sole composer. He still worked with like Iwata and Abe and...
Yeah, 5 composers.
And Kaneda and such. Like, it was just such a great... yeah, I'm now struggling to think of how many of the games, if he did or not, have sole control over, so to speak.
Yeah. I mean, at least as far as this episode goes, only a handful. Vagrant Story was all his work.
Oh, was it nice?
And...
Your next pick as well, right?
Oh, don't put me on the spot like that. I didn't have that page up yet. I didn't even talk about this song yet. Mostly what I wanted to talk about on this one was just the fact that most of this album, or like half of this album, was actually performed by an orchestra.
Yes.
Which is very cool and definitely sets it apart from most of our other things today.
And I wanted to mention that because it contributes to that sort of like impressionist feel.
Yeah, it's like something in like the use of the flute and stuff, and having a real flute just adds... Like, synthetic does okay when it comes to woodwinds and such, but when you get a real flute with the real breath kind of affecting things, it really adds, like, especially with like instruments that require the breath, like, it does kind of get up to human limitations in an interesting way that really brings a lot of life to the sound. Yeah.
I mean, that's what I was going to say. Like, I don't have any problem with like synthesized stuff or electronic music at all. But there's the delicate sound of some of the strings and the wind instruments in this, like, I think you would need that. You need that actual live human component. And I think that's why this is so effective. So yeah, it's, I think it's like 13 or so of like 29 tracks. So almost half was orchestra.
Yeah, I didn't know that. That's cool.
Yeah.
But I just remember, it's that transition period too over those few years from like some games were using it, some games weren't. Like, I was convinced even back in the day that like Legend of Mana was all like live orchestra. Now I'm like, no, obviously it wasn't, idiot. But you're just so convinced when you're a kid, it's just what you know and you hear and such.
Yeah.
And also doesn't stop us from being a great soundtrack.
It's true. Okay, well, you were right. You must have looked it up then. I wasn't quite sure once I had to think about it if Sakimoto was solely responsible for Dragon Quarter, but he was, outside of the vocal song at the end. But yeah, so Breath of Fire 5 is a very strange game, especially the fact that it's a numbered game in the series, even though it was completely different from every other game, and it definitely it definitely had a reception, that's for sure.
That's what I've heard. Yeah. And I want to play it for, I guess not the train wreck effect, but just I've heard enough people too, like you, say it's not that bad, guys.
It's one of those things. I've been thinking about it a lot recently whenever it comes up or whenever I can shoehorn it into the show, because...
And we just had a 30th anniversary, right? So
yeah.
It's even more topical now.
Yeah, I mean, like, this is the 4th time Dragon Quarter has been a rhythm encounter, and it's also the 4th time that I've brought it on. So I don't know why it's only me. Like, I'm sure there's other people that played it and listened to it. I didn't even play it. I just have the soundtrack and think it's fantastic. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know what it is. Having not played it, I understand the idea is completely unlike the other games. Like the setting is weird, the artwork is weird, but I like the artwork. And also the fact that it's, you know, sort of a roguelike, which I don't know. I'm just very curious about the game. Like the more I think about it and the more the years go by where I haven't played it, because I wonder if it maybe would have been received better if it was more of a spin-off and not like, well, this is the 5th game, because it's obviously not like the others at all. So I think it was, you know, like my brother loves it. Like my brother adores this game. So that helped too. Cause like in our house, this game had a positive reception. So
yeah, I was going to say, how much does that influence where you come at it with your history of it, I guess?
I mean, not a lot. It's just because, again, I haven't played it myself. I've heard it's good, and I've heard it's the worst thing that ever happened to Breath of Fire. But obviously, people who say that forgot about Breath of Fire 6.
Is that the browser-based one?
Yep.
Yeah. Speaking of things like, why was that considered a numbered sequel? Not to mention it had nothing to do with Breath of Fire, except like there might have been a dragon in it. Yeah, I don't know. It's one of those things where I sort of feel like it might be received better today. I mean, unless it just doesn't do the roguelike or whatever it's trying to do right. But like those are huge right now. Mm-hmm. That style of game. So I would think maybe if for some reason Capcom wanted to like remaster it, I think it might find a weird audience. A weird audience. It might weirdly find an audience now.
I would believe it.
Both statements are true.
And I think the soundtrack would help with that, because it is a really nice, polished work.
Yeah.
And I actually just noticed Yasunori Mitsuda is the sound director.
What? Well, holy shit. Oh, sorry.
Well, holy work.
I didn't actually know that. Yeah. So, the idea is, I'm saying this as someone who hasn't played it, but you know, the idea is like this game takes place underground. You know, your characters and everyone like live underground, and like no one. The idea is they want to be able to get to the surface and see the sky or something like that. But like, it's one of those things.
And log on.
It's one of those things like, well, no one can do it. No one can get there because it's too dangerous or whatever. So like everyone is just forced to live underground. So it's like this struggle, and
I'm intrigued.
Yeah, I mean, just the idea of the setting always was interesting to me, and the moodiness of so many of the songs on here, and like in this one in particular, like there's these low, you know, I guess they're the piano, or I'm going to call them piano-like, but they're really low, like it's like bassy piano-like tones. Like,
does it start right at the beginning?
Yeah,
like dude, it's like it's either like a synthetic harp or like a piano, yeah. But I also like there's like I think it's a little choral thing with like a little bit of dissonance that just really makes it eerie and unsettling too.
Mm-hmm.
Right. What? I'm being given a look here.
An excited look.
What?
It's almost like this song reminds me of another song from another game that takes place underground.
Shrek? One of the Shrek games?
No.
Shrek Kart Battle or whatever?
No, it's Undertale. This sounds so much like Waterfall and Undertale to me, and I thought that was a cool kind of continuity.
Yeah.
I could see that. Yeah. No,
and
but
it's
like,
that particular part that do.
Well, I like that too, because like that's very pronounced in the beginning, and it's still there. Like it carries through the whole song, but then there's other instruments that come in.
It builds, yeah.
It builds and they overlay, but you can still hear that in the background the whole time. So it's like, it's not exactly tense, but it's not exactly not. It really adds this area of like, you know, mystery, and you know,
I really feel like there's a mysterious quality to this piece that I feel like it builds on.
Yeah, something's going on, and like, because it does have like that run with the pianos or harps or whatever, that like it's just in the right key to really add like that kind of tension, not like an immediate threat, but just you don't know what's going on, something's around the corner or whatever. And it kind of carries that until like 140-ish, and then there is a bit more of a change where it seems to soften, and doesn't quite become a different song, but there's a definite like bridge or whatever that like it seems like there's still a menace, but like it kind of gets a bit more hopeful for a little bit there as it lightens up and has a bit of reprieve before it resets, and you get those harps or whatever things coming in again.
Right. Like my thing in my notes was kind of like it's a good song for making you think of this like mysterious place that's just really begging to be explored, but explored very carefully.
At your own peril.
Yes.
Yeah.
I think this is a great choice just to demonstrate some of Sakimoto's versatility, because you're a long way from your ogre battles, and maybe even a bit of a trek from Ivalice with it.
Yeah, there's a slight hint of not quite the motifs, but just like the tone, just again in how I think it's in how he uses clarinet. I think clarinet's kind of like his hallmark of like the Ivalice kind of sound. You can like hear it doing that whole like and like anytime it comes in, like you can just kind of hear, is that going to start now? I hear a clarinet.
But not here.
No, like that was like the kind of like the Ivalice motif, but like there is some clarinet. But there is some clarinet in this one, and it still evokes that sound, I guess, that he creates. So I'm wondering, like, is it clarinet? That's his.
Depending on the game and
hallmark?
the exact like synthiness of it, I have a hard time picking out. Like, is there a trademark instrument for that Ivalice?
It's a lot of like woodwinds, though. I feel like clarinets and
Yeah, I
bassoons
think.
and stuff, oboes.
Yeah, I think it's horns sometimes too.
Well, anyway, we should all go play this game and see how it held up.
Yeah,
I want to just go listen to the soundtrack.
If you can get it. Oh yeah. This is as good a time as any to mention this. Like, I'll just do it. I'm not going to mention who I did this for, but many years ago, I worked somewhere where I had to put together like a corporate like video, and I had never made a video before. It was just I ended up being that person who just, I'm not saying this to brag, I promise you I'm not, but wherever I work, I kind of like I like learning things. I'm like, well, I'll do this and I'll do this. And like, I'm a designer, but let me figure out this thing. And well, now I'm doing web stuff, and well, maybe I'll try this. So of course, at some point it was like, hey, we need to we're going to make a video. Can you do it, Mike? And I'm like, I don't know. And then I did it. I didn't film it. Like, I got the footage and I just had to put it together, but like we needed some kind of music, and no one was going to license any like royalty free music back then. So I'm like, all right, well, I'm just going to pick things out and hope for the best, even though, you shouldn't use any licensed stuff. But anyway, my point is the soundtrack to this corporate video that I did was basically all Sakimoto music. It was Vagrant.
you telling me that
Vagrant Story and Dragon Quarter, and I think there was some Final Fantasy 12 in there too.
Oh my gosh.
But
nice.
Yeah. So that I was also, I don't know, even back then, whatever year that was, like, this was all very dear music to me. So I'm like, yeah, let's do this. And I didn't tell anyone. I'm just like, how does that sound? I'm like, oh, cool. It's all industrial sounding. I'm like, yes, that is Vagrant Story. But you don't know that, so it's okay.
Which is interesting because you might not be able to guess this, but I think one of Sakimoto's like genres of choice is kind of like that more like electric kind of industrial
Okay.
sound
Well, maybe he would be proud of that video then.
to listen to. Yeah, maybe.
I'll go send it
You
to him.
highlighted it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Weirdly enough, yeah, Breath of Fire, Dragon Quarter, you can't really stream it anymore because I think it was on PS3 and stuff, but it got delisted back when. But it's pretty steep for a whopping like 20 Canadian on eBay. So
Yeah, that's the thing.
You just need a PS2.
I guess it didn't become a cult classic because it's not really expensive. I mean, we just found a copy of it last month for what, $20?
Mm-hmm.
Nice.
We bought it for a friend's birthday, and hilariously gave it to him, and he was really excited, and he opened the case and was like, hey, it's like, this is pretty funny, but I just have a question. Is this what you meant to give me? And
The disc wasn't there.
there was no disc. We didn't know.
Oh.
We bought it secondhand. We went back to the store and they couldn't find the discs.
So we had to like figure out a replacement.
Oh, harsh.
Yeah.
But that's
He was
okay because he later
entertained.
was like, "Oh, the fact that I opened and the disc wasn't in there was like that story is better than like any present you could."
Yeah. If we had just given it to him like a regular old gift. Yeah.
No, this was much better. Apparently.
Yes.
That said, though, like I'm sure you're going to be listing all the sources anyway, but weirdly enough, you can buy the soundtrack on Steam,
Oh, interesting.
even though the game isn't on Steam.
What? Yeah. Why? That's so bizarre.
Because Capcom wants money, I guess. I don't know.
Okay. No. Well, thank you for telling me that.
Yeah, no worries.
I might have known that whenever episode this game was on last, but if not, then I'll make sure to Noted. So anyway, yeah. Well, that's my every couple dozen episode plug for Dragon Quarter. So there you go. I'm good for a little while now.
Play this game I haven't played.
Or buy the soundtrack. It's on Steam.
Yeah.
All right, we got two more, which again are completely different from the rest of the episode. So, Audra, what is your second song today?
My second song is The Ones Who Obtain Tomorrow from Legaia 2 Duel Saga.
All right. And after that, Hilary has something.
Yep. I am bringing on 13 Sentinels.
Yay.
I picked the branched version of Brat Overflow, which is, I think, the title screen, right? Originally.
I believe so.
Yeah.
That sounds right, yeah. I can distinctly hear Alana saying Brat Overflow, and I believe that was her giving high praise to the opening back when.
Right, yeah. Actually, she brought the original version on episode 71, which...
Yeah, the opening's one, right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. So anyway.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
That's why it's etched in my brain.
Exactly.
Anyways. Music!
Let's go listen to The Ones Who Obtain Tomorrow, although we're going to listen to it today, and Brat Overflow Branched.
Okay, let's go obtain tomorrow.
I would love to obtain tomorrow, but not yet.
Den Poel durch die Straße sein, die Seatani Salbato, you stand out, überhand den Poel durch die Straße sein, die Seatani Salbato, you stand out, überhand den Poel durch die Straße sein, die Seatani Salbato, you stand out, überhand den Poel durch die Straße sein, die Seatani Salbato, you stand out, überhand den Poel durch die Straße sein, die Seatani Salbato. 扫把大葱，一线到不被黑，天空黑，我的傻是傻黑，你怎样看你扫把大葱，一线到不被黑，天空黑，我的傻是傻黑，你怎样看你扫把大葱，一线到不被黑，天空黑，我的傻是傻黑，你怎样看你扫把大葱，一线到不被黑，天空黑，我的傻是傻黑，你怎样看你扫把大葱，baby you are
All right. Well, the ones I obtained tomorrow are, it's a really fun song. I kind of just love, it almost reminds me of the jig.
Yeah.
Just in terms of its instrumentation, and there's like a hopeful, determined energy to it that I just really love. And Legaia 2 is awesome, so.
You played it then?
Yeah.
So where does this play?
I was just about to ask that. What kind of scene?
Because I think it's like one of the last songs on the soundtrack for some reason.
I think it's one of the last areas, actually.
Huh.
Interesting.
That you can visit too, so it's been a while since I've played it, so.
It sounds like a very upbeat town, but it's like Sakimoto, like, surprise Celtic.
Yep.
It's like, where have you been keeping that, man?
He learned it from Mitsuda when they worked together on Dragon Quarter.
Ah.
Well, it's like, yeah, it makes me think, is it Home Sweet Home or whatever, that one from Final Fantasy V?
Oh, yeah.
You know, like, do-do-do-do-do-do-do-do-do-do. Yeah, and like, you know, half of that, Hilary, you talked about it a while ago now, but recently because I was listening to back episodes of the show, the Celtic Link album.
Oh, yep.
See,
I
for
don't know,
me,
I like me some good Celtic.
For me, I just thought of the Millennial Fair from Chrono Trigger. So,
yeah.
I mean, I'm just picturing that this game ends with everyone at a carnival.
It does not.
Okay.
That would be kind of fun.
It would
It's like
be.
the remastered endings of Star Wars.
Right. Yeah, I mean, I'm sorry. Like, I have no context. I didn't play either Legaia game, so that's just...
But I could see that for sure.
That's the energy that I get from it, which is really interesting.
A festival
It's
town.
an energetic kind of town theme.
Okay.
Yeah, I think.
Very bright.
Are there any Spanish robots named Cat?
There are not.
Okay, so no Chrono Trigger then.
It's really funny that you said that, because actually I wrote something in my notes about it sounding like Mitsuda.
Okay.
A little bit, probably because of those kind of Celtic influences.
That's neat.
Yeah, I can see it.
And the interplay between the winds and the fiddly violin. But along with this trend that I keep talking about with like blending instruments, this sounded a little bit more blendy with the different parts than I would usually expect from Mitsuda, so that kind of distinguishes it a little bit. I don't know, but I liked it a lot. I'm always up for Celtic music.
Well, if it helps any, Mitsuda did compose 9 of the songs on this game.
Okay.
Yes.
Well,
So
that
there you
explains
go.
it.
Oh, is this another one where Mitsuda also may have been like the director of the music aspect? Because then that could make sense
No.
too. Where it was more
He was
fitting
another.
He just one of
okay,
the,
just a composer.
one of the 3
Okay.
composers.
Yep.
Yeah.
Because I was going to say maybe that was just the style, and thus you did a good job of matching.
Exactly. That just having him on it could explain, if you're working as a team, as Sakimoto often does, you do kind of have to like consider the other members of the team and how everything
Right.
fits together. And once again, he's really good at that.
Yeah.
Apparently.
Mitsuda just has that power, Like they were going one direction with the soundtrack, and then he just walked into the room, and like suddenly everything changed.
Everything's Celtic now.
Everything's Celtic. It's like, what's this feeling? It just washes over them.
All I know is I have to shout out to Pat Gann on this one because Pat does love the Break Boost Beyond live performance of A Settlement in the Red Bluffs, and I now want that quartet, if I recall correctly, to redo the song. So I think it would have so much fun energy to it.
Uh-huh.
Ooh.
A quartet version of this would be interesting.
Wow, these are some dramatic song titles. Decadence and Corruption.
All right.
Scream of the Earth.
All right, but what about making money? Question mark, because that feels like my life.
Oh dear.
Are you making money?
Maybe.
I'm entertained that making money question mark is followed with funding the worthless war.
That's amazing.
The slogan for America.
Oh dear.
Ooh, that tells a story right there.
You know what? I semi-jokingly made an idea card for us at one point of like doing an episode.
Yes,
just
ridiculous song titles.
Songs with just weird titles.
Please. I want to do that
yes,
episode.
Like,
Except you've already used Bland logo.
but there's good ones here. Like some of the Atelier games have ridiculous titles, which I love.
We all know
Nice.
who the undisputed champion
Save it for the episode.
Yeah.
of the
Now I
weird
want it.
song titles is, though.
Yeah,
Pat
you-
and I talk about this a lot.
Yeah, go for it.
It's without a doubt Sakuraba.
Oh,
The
yeah.
Sakuraba.
Sakuraba's titles are wild.
Man, now I got to go do a deep dive on VGMDB.
Oh yeah. Look up some, anything really.
There's some good
Star
ones
Ocean.
in Star Ocean. Eternal Sonata has some excellent ones.
Okay.
Actually,
dig it.
most of my picks for that episode were probably from Eternal Sonata.
Although you're going to be talking about Eternal Sonata on a different upcoming rhythm encounter, aren't you?
I'm really
Yes.
excited about that.
Actually, yeah, that's coming up soon enough that I'm going to talk about that at the end here today.
Ooh,
But you probably should talk about your song first.
yes.
Well, I have one more question about Legaia too, if I may.
Oh yeah.
Oh, sure.
Because I don't think we asked that. I mean, we were talking about how it's very Mitsuda-y and everything, and that all makes sense. Is the rest of the soundtrack very like Celtic-y, or is this like a standout track?
It's a standout track for
Okay.
Sakimoto's in particular, his tribute contribution to it. It's actually very different from what he normally did. There's even like a Native American style song at one point.
Interesting.
Yeah, kind of goes everywhere.
Yeah, I mean, I want to listen to the whole soundtrack.
It's good.
That's another soundtrack I might have to like pick up and listen to start to finish.
Mm-hmm.
But speaking, I guess, of more very different sounding Sakimoto stuff.
Yeah, so now let's talk about kind of the more electronic-y side of things. Because at least the original version of this song sounds like something straight out of Ghost in the Shell. And this version
yeah.
definitely sounds just very kind of modern, dancey, high energy, high stakes. And the reason I like that about it, but the other reason is I really like several of the remixes on the Branched album for 13 Sentinels, and I wanted to talk for a minute about the interesting kind of concept they had for that. So anybody know why they call it Branched?
No, actually.
Please tell.
Okay, so a lot of the track names, and I think part of the plot of 13 Sentinels involves genetics, proteins, so a lot of the track names are amino acids
Neat.
in the OST. And so Branched is actually kind of a specific form or a subset of amino acid. So it's kind of like saying it's this version of the thing.
Oh, okay. That's really clever then
Yeah,
to use for a rearrangement album.
it is. It is, because it's a pretty small subset of them that are branched, if I'm remembering my biochemistry correctly.
Okay.
And of course, that totally changes their biological function too. So it's sort of implying that these remixes are changing things in an impactful way.
That's pretty neat. That's clever.
Yeah.
That's very cool.
And very suitable to this, the pseudoscience-y
Yep.
sci-fi nature of this whole thing. So
It fits the sci-fi theme perfectly.
Yeah.
Yeah, I kind of wanted to showcase the other side of kind of his musical interest with the sort of like electric sound, and I wanted something with vocals, like the kind of chanty thing they have going on in the song is great. It sounds kind of a little bit driving and desperate, and I think more so in the branched remix, it really kind of drives that home. But I'm also very curious how you all like this version, if you've played the game, or like the song in general if you haven't.
I haven't played the game, but I really like this version of the song. It reminds me a bit of actually some of Sakimoto's work on Tekken.
Ah, okay.
Yeah.
Oh, I could see that. Yeah, it would fall into a match very easily for sure.
Nice. I think this is one of those songs that starts off very strong and just never lets up. And it's interesting because, like, sometimes if I'm describing a song like that, like, sometimes I don't consider that a positive. Not in this case. Like, but sometimes
No, I know, but I'm remembering.
Well, I mean, like, sometimes a song can just be too noisy for my taste anyway.
Too many notes. Oh, sorry.
Too many notes. Yeah. I'm saying this despite the fact that I praised Crazy Chocobo in the last episode.
Yeah, what's with that?
It doesn't quite go full cacophony.
It's, you know what, though? Crazy Chocobo is one of those songs that it knows how stupid it is. So I respect it. But no, I mean, like, this one's pretty intense, but, like, again, not in a bad way. It's intensely musically satisfying. And also, just like you said, like, this is not a sound I normally ever associated with him, like, until I heard this or heard the music from this game. So I think that's, again, like, he's very adaptable, and I'm impressed by that.
Yeah, he does a great job of finding the balance with so much going on in his pieces. Like, very few people can do it so well that, like, you get it, and can still pick out, like, everything that's going on without it feeling too chaotic.
Yeah, that's really the trick with this kind of like vaguely almost kind of sci-fi sound, especially with the vocals. It's easy for it to get muddled.
Yeah, well, exactly. Like, it's if the levels aren't right, if you're not picking your timing right, it can just get lost.
Right.
So I guess that's kudos to the arrangement as well as the original composition here.
Yeah, that's fair too. I can't remember if Alana did speak to this or not back on the opening episodes, if that language was made up or not.
Oh, that's a good question.
I cannot recall now if it was just gibberish. I feel like, because I remember I mentioned in Janique Nicole, am I saying her name right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember bringing that up too, and how she made up stuff for. Yeah, okay. Yeah, I remember talking about that for Nier and everything, and
yeah, chaos
Alana was
language.
like, yeah, no, it's not made up language, just gibberish. I think I remember her saying now.
Oh, geez, yeah, the Nier vocal composers, like, there's a whole kind of logic to it that they've come up with over time to chaos language.
For chaos language.
Yeah.
And I'm sure there's a logic to this. It's not to say it's gibberish in the sense that, like, it doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
Like, it's but he made, like, an instrument out of it as opposed to trying to say something, so to speak. But it's definitely, like, a very different pace to just, like, standard Brat Overflow in this one.
Yep.
It's almost so funny too, because we're kind of liking into other stuff. Like, I can see this very easily playing in, like, a high stakes level in, like, Ace Combat or something, because once you get those, like, running guitars and stuff in there, really kind of changes the energy of the piece.
Right.
I could see it in almost like a God Eater.
Yeah, because you brought some of that
actually.
stuff on too. Yeah, it would
Yeah.
be very fitting with that too. And now you introduced me to that too. Never, without ever playing Bayonetta, I was like, this is from Bayonetta. It just feels like guns, chaotic, and like the stakes are very high.
Which is interesting because that's one component, one facet of the game.
Right.
But
Yeah,
there are others
when
to
you're
it
doing
as well.
The
So
towery defense.
I think that's kind of like one of the things I like about this branched remix is, like, I think by making the original sound a little bit more mysterious, a little bit more Ghost in the Shell, I think that made it a better title kind of track. But I think this remix really emphasizes one aspect of the story, so to speak.
And these do play in the game, like the branched ones. the remixes, or it's not like a branch to different album thing?
It's a different
Like,
album.
It's a different album. It's
Yep.
an arrangement.
Oh,
album.
it is. Okay,
Yeah.
so these aren't actually in the game.
No.
Correct.
Gotcha.
No, this was an arrangement album, 14 tracks. So came out later.
Okay, gotcha. But yeah, I'm really impressed by the guitar work. I'm just trying to look up who the guitarist is to give that a shout out. But I really like, just the kind of the standout soloing he gets to do. It's not like too in your face. Like it still complements the piece well enough while also letting them kind of play a bit. It's very cool.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, we had a really diverse lineup today, which is really what I love for these composer episodes. I like, what was the last one?
Was it Komi Tanioka?
I think it was Tanioka. Yeah. I really like when just seeing what everyone comes up with for these and, showcasing a range that, I don't know of any composers that are like, oh, wow, you can only do one thing. Or they probably wouldn't be as popular as they are, but even if you know that they have a range, it's always eye-opening to be like, oh, wow. Like when you think about, just look at this episode on its own, like compare like the first couple songs, the last couple, like it's very cool. I mean, I learned stuff from it. So I assume I'm not the only one.
Yeah. It's a bit of a then and now too, in some ways.
Yeah.
Shoot, I don't think it was Tanioka because we had Duncan Rappa, didn't we? Wasn't that after?
Yeah, that's true. We've had a few composer ones recently, but yeah, always a diverse lineup of music. So
It's always good to call attention to that because even though we know these are, world-class composers and compositions, like we tend to think of them for their most, the work that had made an impression on us or their most popular music, so it's always worth it to get a glimpse of the whole picture.
yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I think one of my favorite examples was actually when we brought the show back in 2020. We came back with an episode about Mitsuda, and what was the game? Chris was on that episode. It was just you and me and Chris, right?
Yep.
Yeah, me. I'm talking to Hilary. It's you, as if everyone knows who I'm referring to. But yeah,
Point through the ether. Show us.
Like Chris brought on music that Mitsuda did for Armadine, a game I had never heard of until that episode, and Revolver's 8, a game I'd never heard of until that episode. So like blending like Xenogears and Final Fantasy 15 and these games we'd never heard of and Shadow Hearts, I'm like, it's just, I don't know, it's just so much fun. So, and today too, like I'm glad we had such a range of music here. So thank you, everyone.
It was a pleasure being on. Thanks for putting things together.
Yeah.
So, Greg, you mentioned this a little bit. I always do this at the end, but when we talk about games that made their Rhythm Encounter debut...
oh, sorry, spoilers.
That's okay. Yeah, so it turns out the way it broke down in this episode, all 4 songs that Hilary and I brought on are games that have been on the show before, and all 4 songs that Greg and Audra brought on had never been on the show before. So
Go team, new stuff.
That's
Wow.
excellent.
yeah, so Crimson Shroud, Legaia 2, Ogre Battle 64, and Tactics Ogre. All 4 of those, these were our first appearances on the show.
Well done.
Wow.
So you're saying we need more diverse Sakimoto stuff.
Yes.
Now we have
And
it.
Iwata, I guess.
Yep. Well, we'll do that episode one day about RPG composers and their other music, so Audra can get her Tekken music in.
That too.
So, although that's not what's coming next. Coming next on Rhythm Encounter is we're revisiting character themes. We did a character themes episode many years ago, but it turns out in RPGs, there's a lot of characters. So when you're only talking about 6 to 8 character themes in an episode, I mean...
There's plenty of room for more.
Have you even played Chrono Cross? There's like nobody in that.
Yeah, but they don't all have character themes. Only a few of them do.
Some of them do.
Robbed, jeepers.
That'll be fun. I actually need to pick my songs for that still. Because again, there's a lot of characters, so I haven't decided where I'm going to go with it. But I'm looking forward to that. And then after that, episode 110 is going to be musical games.
Yes.
So that's games.
Ask me about Loom.
Loom. Yeah, Loom, Eternal Sonata. So basically games that like have a musical theme or are somehow about music themselves, the music from those.
Music is a part of the
Ooh.
gameplay, and a couple of them that I have in mind,
Yeah.
like Loom.
So you're going to make some more people angry with Legend of Zelda?
Wow, I actually, Ocarina of Time, maybe it's not entirely a musical game, but I could see you making a case for that.
Yeah, Ocarina, Majora's Mask, and Wind Waker.
Wind Waker, yeah.
Yep.
Music is very
Oh,
important.
geez, you have a freaking conductor's baton.
Yeah.
And Spirit Tracks, too, with the flute thing and blowing into your DS.
Link is very musical.
Link is musical.
We forget that.
You can bring on Cadence of Hyrule. We can bring on Theater Rhythm if you want, technically.
Yep.
It's a lot going on there, yeah.
Yeah. So those are our next 2 episodes. Please look forward to those. If you have thoughts on this episode, any episode, if you have feedback, ideas, suggestions, you can email the show at music@rpgfan.com. We would love to hear from you. You can reach me personally. Email's the best way at mike@rpgfan.com. How can people reach you, Greg?
I am at Greg Delmage pretty much anywhere on the interwebs.
All right. And Hilary?
Best way to reach me is email. I'd say hilary@rpgfan.com.
All right. And how about you, Audra?
Email audrab@rpgfan.com.
So along with Rhythm Encounter, RPG Fan has 2 other podcasts, which is Random Encounter and Retro Encounter. Given the nature of Random Encounter, I cannot tell you what episode is airing right before or after this because it's a few weeks out. But rest assured, it's going to be about something current, whether it's news or reviews. Maybe Audra will be on to talk about another recent review she did. We don't know, but be sure to check that out. So
Audra Encounter.
Audra
That's what we should call it.
So Random Encounter posts every other Monday, opposite Rhythm Encounter. And then Retro Encounter posts every Thursday. So Retro Encounter is every month they do a game journal on an old episode. And then there's some other fun episodes in between all of those. If you're listening to this when it's new, Retro Encounter should have just finished their game journal on Lost Odyssey.
Woo!
So actually one of those isn't even recorded yet. So we're actually really ahead of the ball here. So yeah, Lost Odyssey just wrapped up, and I actually don't know what's coming up after that because, again, we're recording in advance, but I'm sure it's worth listening to. So be sure to check out Random Encounter and Retro Encounter.
Yeah, good shows, good peoples.
Yeah.
Yes.
So you can also find RPG Fan on just about every social media. You can find us on Twitter and Facebook and Twitch and YouTube.
Are we on Mastodon, Mike?
And Instagram. We are sort of on Mastodon. But,
oh, really? That's fun.
Yeah. I don't remember how the usernames work offhand, so I'm not giving that out today. But generally,
that's fine.
Generally, you can find us on social media at RPGFan.com because it turns out that RPG Fan is generic enough that some people took it on other platforms before us. So we are RPGFan.com.
Curse you, RPG fans.
Yeah. Oh, we probably shouldn't say that.
I'm kidding. We love you. Keep listening.
Yes. Curse you, RPG fans. Also, please rate and review us on Apple Podcasts and Google Podcasts. Tell us how much you love us, even though Greg just cursed you.
And ourselves. We just curse ourselves. Every single one of us.
Yes. Well, Greg did. I want to be clear here. Greg is the one cursing people.
Yes. Okay. Should probably check that email of mine, eh? I'm sure a lot of good things are in there now.
All right. So that's all my fun housekeeping stuff. We have one final thing, as we always do, and that is our bonus track.
Yay.
Who has our bonus track today?
I think it's me.
It's you. Mm-hmm. What are we closing out with?
We are closing out with, so the combination of things that we had today got me thinking that I'd want to go to something that was meant to sound kind of like mysterious or not on the battlefield from an Ogre battle game. So I picked Fortune Teller from March of the Black Queen.
Nice.
Just had to get one more Ogre battle in here, huh?
Yes.
I appreciate it.
If I may, before we play out, just fun anecdote about that song. For anyone who hasn't played it, it's like when you're setting up your character at the beginning. And probably like one of the most polarizing things for me as a kid with that game, when you're pulling up the tarot cards and based on what your answers are, it gives you one of 3 good leaders or 1 terrible leader. And I remember in the Super Nintendo one is my favorite thing is that typo. I think it's your house is on fire. Who do you save? And it has 3 options. And it's like your mother, your child. And then the third option is you beautiful lover. Because it's a typo. And I love it so much.
It's so good.
That's a great
You're
typo.
Like, me?
Oh, thank you.
You're coming on a little strong there, Warren. Warren is the wizard guy telling your fortune.
Gotcha.
Yes.
Okay, I didn't know where this anecdote was going, but I'm really happy you shared it.
Yeah, it's one of my favorite localization faux pas, right up there with summoning the almighty guy named Rich.
All right. Well, that will do us for today. So let's go finish off by listening to Fortune Teller from Ogre Battle March of the Black Queen. Thank you all for being here, and thank you everyone for listening. We'll see you next time.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I can remember Audra saying the words in her accent. Brat Overflow.
Audra or Alana?
I'm going to take that again. Thank you.
Oh, Audra in your British accent.
Oh, yeah. It comes and goes.